What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Slam podcast. I'm your host, Bajo. So today, I was really debating if I wanted to do a podcast episode this weekend, just because there's been a lot on my mind recently, and it's really more of a personal struggle, and just really figuring out my relationship with myself. But anyways, that was that. And so, yeah, I was just really, I wasn't really in the right headspace, but the grind don't stop. So your boy's got to do what he's got to do. And that is an episode every weekend. Moving forward, I actually got my booster shot today. So I'm kind of feeling the effects of the booster shot right now. I feel a little bit sick. My head feels a little warm, and I'm pretty tired. I don't know if you guys can tell in my voice, but I'm pretty tired. But hey, it's for a good cause, and, you know, the side effects, it means it's working. So get your booster shots, guys. Keep everybody safe. I also just got done shopping at Michael's. It's just an arts and crafts store, for those of you who don't know what it is. And how I really... So I'm doing a project. I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm super excited for it. And how I got into arts and crafts, I'm not really sure, but I think it might have started like 2 or 3 years ago. I just did really small projects here and there, and then I realized that... You know, I always say that I have no artistic creativity, but I think I'm really exploring that and finding out that with practice, anything is possible. I don't know. I'm still doubting myself right now because I haven't put enough practice into it, but that's what like Pinterest and YouTube and Google is for, right? So as you guys can tell from the title of this video, we are going to be diving back into basic training. And the first video that I did on it, it just wasn't enough. So many things happened, and it easily could have been a 1 hour and 30 minute or 2 hour episode. So I wanted to start off with going back to reception, where it's pretty much like doing all of our paperwork, and then they issue us all of our gear, like our uniforms and socks and underwear, and I think they gave us like basic hygiene. Yeah, they gave us like basic hygiene needs. So they give you a credit card, and I forgot how much was on there. Might have been like a couple $100. And they have like a little tiny store there, I think. So we just went there, and we had a list of all the stuff that we were supposed to buy, and the money that they gave us, it is just enough to buy what you need. And you maybe had a few bucks left to buy something extra on the side. But you just had to buy like a toothbrush, I think, toothpaste, and soap, and like this dinky little bottle of shampoo, and some other basic necessities for hygiene. So at reception, we had barracks that we slept at, and every time it was time to go eat, we would have to march to the chow hall. So we'd have to get into formation. We would have to wait for the drill sergeant, and then he would come get us and march us to go eat at the chow hall. Guys, I had the worst luck because I think it was after like 2 days, I had a canker sore, and I think it was one of the most painful canker sores I've ever had in my entire life. And of all times to have it, why was it during reception, where you're forced to eat really fast and drink all your fluids really fast? It was so painful. Drinking, that hurt my sore. Eating, of course, that was especially painful. It was so painful to the point that I think my eyes got watery because it hurt so much. So that was that. In the chow hall, I think they gave us granola bars. Yeah, so there were granola bars that we could eat, and people would steal their granola bars and take it back to the barracks. So like you can't take any food with you, back to the barracks, but people would just stuff it in their pockets and whatnot. And, they never knew until we got caught. So there was a time where we got done eating. So when we were done eating, we go back outside and then go back into a formation. We wait for everybody to get back, and then drill sergeant marches us back to our barracks. This story could be wrong. Maybe we just went back straight to the barracks, but then we had to get information regardless. And I think I heard the drill sergeant saying that he caught somebody with a granola bar in their pocket. And so that is considered contraband. Okay, so contraband is stuff that you are not allowed to have. So we're all in formation and everyone's just whispering amongst themselves like, oh shit, somebody got caught. All right, who else has granola bars? So you see like 15 guys throwing their granola bars at the windows that go to the barracks because we can open our windows, and it was super hot. And I don't think there were any screens on those windows. So you just open them up and it goes straight inside. So people were chucking their granola bars at the windows to try and get it inside the barracks so that when the drill sergeant searched our pockets, he wouldn't find any granola bars. And it was so funny because people kept missing. So it was just hitting the walls. They would get so close, but they'd hit the wall next to it or something and it would fall right back down to the grass. And they'd run back over to the grass, pick it up, and try to chuck it again. I'm like, really, guys are really doing this? We're going to get fucked up for this. I kind of forgot what happened. I don't know if we got in trouble for it. We might have, but it was so long ago, guys. This was almost 10 years ago, and my memory's horrible too because of the lack of sleep that I get. But, yep, that was one of the funniest things that I saw. So there was another time where we were in a formation, and I'm not sure if it was in the morning or if it was at dinner time. I just remember that it was kind of dark if I remember correctly. But in formation in front of the barracks that we were sleeping in, this guy passes out, right? And if you watched my last video, we call that a heat cat. And a heat cat is just short for a heat casualty. And guys, mind you that we're in the middle of Missouri, and it's super hot in there in the middle of July. It could be worse. It could be like Florida or something, but it's still hot. The Army is well aware of this, so they're always watching out for heat cats because some of us aren't acclimatized to the weather in Missouri. So this guy passes out from the heat, right? And then some dude yells, "This guy passed out! Medic! We need a medic over here, medic!" I'm like, bro, chill. We're not in the middle of a war zone. There's no medics out here. It's just us and the drill sergeants. Chill. Like, this guy been watching too many movies, I swear. And he's just screaming bloody murder at the top of his lungs, trying to get a medic to come over. It was a few minutes before drill sergeant came over, and then I think they dragged that guy away or something. So, yeah, first time I saw somebody pass out from heat. Very interesting. So when you get to basic, you're super busy. You don't have any personal time whatsoever, except for the 1 hour of personal time that we have every single night, and for when we go on pass on the weekends. But Monday through Friday, you're working, if I had to put an estimate on it, we were working probably like 16 hours a day. 16 hours of work, sleep for maybe 7 or 8, and then do it all over again. And, I'm not like overstretching how much work we did, because within that 16-hour window, yeah, there were times where we weren't really doing anything, and it's a lot of hurry up and wait, but you're technically still at work. And hurrying up and waiting is part of your job, because they tell you to do it, so you do it, so you're working. But again, everything that you do it because they tell you to. They tell you to go take a shit, you better go take a shit. They tell you to sleep, you better fall asleep. But yeah, the only time that we really had any semblance of peace was when we slept. Or it was during pass, or the 1 hour of personal time that we had. And personal time, most people would just write letters home, and I did that too. So I would always write to my sister, and once in a while I would write to my brother because he would write to me once in a while. So my sister, she wrote me letters every single day pretty much. And during the weekend, maybe it was Friday or something, we would always get our letters from home. And everybody would look forward to it. I mean, who wouldn't? You're cut off from the outside world. You have no cell phones. You have no internet. You only get to talk to your family maybe on the weekends. So everybody's homesick. And so I would always look forward to getting a letter from my sister. There was like 1 or 2 weekends where I didn't get a letter from her. And I was really, really sad. I was like super depressed. Well, I mean, I wasn't depressed, but I was just, I was so anxious. I was like just waiting so long to get a letter from her, only to find out that I didn't get one. So I remember my sister, she sent me a letter the following weekend after I didn't get one. And she said that she couldn't write me a letter, and she apologized because she was busy and whatnot. So really big relief. Thought the world forgot about me or something. No, I'm kidding. But anyways, going back to us being like so busy every single day, you're always tired. Always. That's just how they break you down and build you back up into a soldier. They make you tired. So there's this one time I was so tired, and I was on the gun range waiting to shoot next. And mind you, there's like 50 guns going off. I'm sitting on the grass waiting for my turn to go and shoot, and I start dozing off. And there's guns firing all around me, and they're loud, guys, obviously. And I was dozing off. I fell asleep. Our one of our lieutenants in our XO, he's like, "Hey, you, stand up." I'm like, "I wasn't sleeping, sir." He's like, "I don't care, stand up." And then he walks past me and he says, "If I see anybody else sitting down, I'm gonna smoke you." So, yeah, for that day or so, I kind of ruined it for everybody because we were able to sit down and wait while we were shooting, but now we all had to stand up because I fell asleep. Oh, man, that's how tired you are. You know you're tired when you start falling asleep during gunfire. That's really bad. Something that a soldier should never do. I don't know if a lot of people think about this, but I think maybe some people, they think like, man, what do soldiers do on the holidays? Well, for us in basic training, we do celebrate holidays when we are in basic training, and typically they give us pretty much the entire day off. We may have a few hours of training that we have to do. We still have to do physical training every single morning and sometimes at night, but for the most part in between our workouts, we do have a lot of free time on the holidays. So we celebrated Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween. I was there for it all. And so for Thanksgiving, we had a really nice feast. So every time that we celebrated a holiday, they would serve us amazing food in the DFAC. Don't get me wrong, the food in the DFAC, so DFAC is spelled DFAC, and DFAC is just short for the dining facility. So in the DFAC, the food was always amazing. Don't get me wrong, it was, oh my god, I thought that they were going to feed us like shit. No. They fed this big boy good, I'll tell you that. But on the holidays, oh my god. You take what you're eating at the DFAC and you multiply it by like 10 for the level of goodness, and that's what you get. Thanksgiving, we had turkey with like jam or whatever, and then like we had ham with it too, and we had like a bunch of other stuff, and it was pretty much anything that you could ask for Thanksgiving. That's what we ate. And the neat part was that in the DFAC, you always have cooks and servers who give you your food, but on the holidays, you know who gives us our food? Our drill sergeants, our captain, our commanding officer, our XO, our first sergeant. Did I say that yet? I don't know. So our leadership is serving us this food, and that's a pretty common theme among the military that I've seen. It's kind of like a common courtesy where leadership will always eat last. your priority is to make sure that your guys eat first before you do. And I'm all for it. Like I live for that. I love that rule. I think everybody should live by that. Your subordinates, you got to take care of them. They should be eating first before you ever do. So that was really, really nice of them. Christmas was great. We got to go home. I think we had a Christmas feast before we left. I'm not sure. But I think we did eat pretty good right before we left for holiday block leave. So HBL, holiday block leave, they gave us 2 weeks to go home. And I think some people, they chose to stay, or like they couldn't go or something like that. So some people stayed behind, but the majority of us went back home for those 2 weeks from basic training. And I didn't even know that was a thing, but it was super cool. And just being able to have a break in between basic training, going home to see your family for 2 weeks, and then going back and then finishing your training, like that was awesome. So I chose to go home for 2 weeks, and I came back. Everybody knew that I was coming back for the holidays. But now that I think about it, I should have kept it a secret. I should have let in like my sister and my brother-in-law, or like maybe one of my other brothers or something, and then surprise everybody else when I came back home. But I was just so excited. I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm coming back home. See y'all in a couple weeks. So that's what I did. I came back home, and I go to the airport, and there's like thousands of soldiers there. Like, I shit you not. There's like thousands of us there. We're all trying to go home, and flights are coming in and out. So, after going through all that trouble, I get back home to Wausau. My oldest brother, picks me up from the airport. Or actually, I lied. I flew to, where the heck did I land? Green Bay or something? I think I landed in Green Bay or something. And then my brother-in-law and my sister came to pick me up from the airport. My sister hugged me, and she cried. So that was really sweet. And then this guy walked past us while we were hugging each other. He says, "Welcome home, soldier." I'm like, thanks. I only came back from basic training. I didn't do anything special yet, but I appreciate it. Got into my brother-in-law's car, greeted my brother-in-law. I'm like, hey, can you guys take me to the mall? Because I have old clothes that I wore to go to basic training, and I haven't worn them in months, so I don't want to wear them when I get back to your guys' house. So, can we go to the mall and get some new clothes for me? So I went to the mall, and I went to American Eagle. I bought a whole new outfit, maybe some more. And then, did I get changed inside the mall? I might have. Because, guys, when you wear the same uniform for like 5-6 months straight, or however many months, you don't really want to wear the uniform anymore, especially if you're given the chance to wear something else. And that was what happened in my case. I was just so tired of wearing the uniform, and I just wanted to look different for once. So we leave the mall. We go to my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law's house, or my brother-in-law and my sister's house, excuse me. And, we just kind of relaxed for a little bit, and then my oldest brother, Chong, and then my other older brother, Mingmo, they came to Appleton to pick me up. So they picked me up. They take me back to Wausau. And my mom's home. I come through the door, and my mom starts crying. And I think she kind of gave me like a little mini lecture about like how I was gone for so long, and like how she missed me, and maybe a little bit of like, you never should have joined, or something like that. Something along the lines of that. And so I hugged my mom, and, I put all my stuff away in my room. And the neat thing is I came back home to a new house. So when I left, I lived in an apartment. And then when I came back home to Wausau, I lived, we moved to a brand new home. And so it was a really different welcoming, because I didn't go back to the home that I knew. We went back to an upgraded house, an upgraded living. So I went to my room. They showed me my room, and they set like everything up for me already, and then we kind of just, I think we ate, and then we kind of caught up, and kind of talked about my experiences in basic. And then like everybody went to go sleep after that. I think we may have had a few drinks. I'm not sure, but I do remember that night my dad was working late, and what was I doing up that late? I was playing video games. Okay, guys, I'm a 19-year-old kid, and I haven't played games in months and months. So obviously I played games all night long. So I'm playing games, and I'm sitting on the living room floor, and my dad walks in the living room to my left. And he's like, "Oh, you're home?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm home." He walks over and he shakes my hand. It's like such a Hmong dad thing to do. No hugs, no nothing. It's just "Oh, you're back. Here, somebody, give you a handshake." So, and then I think he went back. He went to his bedroom and got changed and all that stuff. And I think he went straight to sleep. So I just played games all night. So that is that for Christmas. For Halloween, that was super fun. For Halloween, did we get candy? We might have. I don't know. Like I said, guys, it happened so long ago, and I'm feeling kind of woozy today and like sick and tired from my booster shot. So please bear with me. Halloween, I remember they let us go to a haunted house. We went to a haunted house, and the people, the entertainers, the actors who like does Halloween shows and stuff like that, they used old like World War II barracks, and they turned it into a Halloween house, or a haunted house, I should say. And that was actually pretty cool. That was the first haunted house that I went to. You have a bunch of like young scared soldiers going into a haunted house together, and everyone's scared shitless, and we're all holding on to each other. It was really, really cool. Like they had these blinking lights, and then we went, so like those barracks, it's nothing but a long hallway and a bunch of like tiny little rooms on every single side. So we're just walking through the hallway. There's a bunch of rooms, and there was like these blinking lights in a lot of the rooms, and the actors were in there dressed up all scary, and the lights were blinking in such a way where when the actors are approaching you really closely, it looks like they're glitching, because the lights make it look like they're like glitching, right? Like they're just moving by frame, like frame by frame. So that was pretty cool. I wouldn't say I got too much of a good scare going through the haunted house. Actually, you know what? That's a lie, because we got to the final room and it was dark as shit. There were a bunch of like glowing skulls, I believe. And then we didn't know if they were people or what, but then out of all the glowing skulls that we saw in that pitch black room, one of them starts fucking running towards us, and then we all scream like little girls. And we all started like holding on to each other, and I grabbed the guy in front of me, and I held his shoulder. I'm like, holy shit, I did not expect that. It's like, so it was really fun. Halloween was awesome. So it was really cool that they let us celebrate these things during basic training, because I think a common misconception is that it's all just working out and getting yelled at and having drill sergeants spin in your face and hazing you, all that stuff. Yeah, that may be true for the most part, but they do let us have breaks once in a while too. So I went into basic training like really, really fat, right? And it took me a really long time to pass my first physical fitness test. So in my age bracket at that time, I had to get like 35 push-ups within 2 minutes, and like 40-something sit-ups in 2 minutes, and then a 16-minute and 36-second 2-mile run. So I failed it and failed it and failed it. I was really, really close at the very end of basic training, but I think I ran a 17:05 on my 2-mile. I passed my push-ups and sit-ups, but I failed to run. And if you watched my last episode about my basic training story, it was because I had a stress fracture on my third right metatarsal toe. So right from the get-go during the 2-mile run, I was already limping. And my drill sergeant saw that too. So after the PT test, he told me, he's like, hey, I know I saw you limping on the 2-mile run. You need to get that checked out. So I did. We did an x-ray, and then they gave me the scan and said that you have stress fractures. I'm like, nice. So because of that, I couldn't graduate with everybody else. So the first cycle that I went through, everybody graduated and I had to stay behind. But the second cycle that I went through, I finally passed my first PT test after like healing up and all that stuff. And so when you pass your PT test, they allow you to eat ice cream and like other junk foods in the DFAC. And I've been waiting so long to eat ice cream, guys. Because back then I would fail my physical fitness test. And the guys who passed, they would get to eat ice cream and all the junk food that they wanted to in the DFAC. So when I passed my first PT test, it was really rewarding because I finally got to eat ice cream. I ate the fuck out of that ice cream. I remember what I got. It was a ice cream sandwich. And the sandwich is like the buns, if you will, were chocolate. And then there was, like vanilla in the middle. So good. Another funny thing is that, like, the fat people who go to basic training, the drill sergeants will openly tell them, you better not be eating, like, the high-protein food. So, like, every time you go to the chow hall, there's foods, like, there's 3 different dishes that have 3 different colored labels on them. Green was, like, a vegetarian dish, which was, like, the healthiest option. And then yellow was, like, somewhere in the middle. And then red was like really high protein dish. So for me, for like the first couple months, I ate just green dishes. So I was almost purely vegetarian. Because like if drill sergeants saw you, like a fat person, eating the red labeled like food, they'd be like, man, I know you better not be eating that stuff. You're fat, right? Like if anything, you need to lose weight, you got to be eating the stuff with the green labels on it. Okay? So they would say stuff like that to you in front of your face. So I'm like, you know what? That guy's not going to be me. So I'm going to be eating the green labeled stuff for the longest time until I start to lose weight. Like 2 months passed. I think I dropped like 25 pounds. Crazy. The weight loss is insane. You work out so hard in basic. And I think it's really a shock to your body too. Like when you've been fat your entire life and then you go to basic training or just like lose a lot of weight, because you're changing up your routine so drastically that you lose weight so fast. And it's kind of like a shock to your body. So losing like 25 pounds or 30 pounds in the first like 2 or 3 months of basic training, that is completely normal and people do it all the time. So when I dropped like the first 20-25 pounds of basic, I started to go for the high protein stuff, man. I'm like, all right, I started dropping down fat, so I got to start building my muscle again. So the sad part was that I lost a lot of my fat, but at the same time, we did so much cardio that I lost a lot of my muscles too. I wasn't as strong as I was when I came in. So I started to eat a lot of protein at that time. So this reminds me, like, the skinny guys in basic training. There's this one guy, he was like a stick, 90 pounds soaking wet. You can lift him up with one hand. Like, drill sergeants would tell him at the DFAC all the time, hey, you better be grabbing some peanut butter. You got to gain some of that weight. You want to pass basic, basic training. So this guy would have to eat peanut butter. Thank God he didn't have an allergy. They would force him to eat peanut butter every day at the DFAC so that he can gain weight. And gain weight he did. There were some days where like he would forget to grab peanut butter and the drill sergeants would go up to him and be like, hey, I don't see peanut butter on your plate. So he'd have to go back to like the station where all the peanut butter and like the jelly and like the jams are and like the syrup. He'd have to go over there and grab like 2 or 3 cups of peanut butter to eat it, because peanut butter is just packed with so much like healthy fats and protein. So they would make him eat that all the time. And he gained a lot of muscle. I saw the pictures of him when we first came in and how he looked when we graduated, and that guy was like halfway ripped. So that was funny. One thing about basic training is that going through 2 cycles, you always have shitty people. in whichever class you go through. There's always going to be shitty people in basic training. There's always going to be the troublemakers. There's always going to be the guys who came out of the hood and they think that they can keep the hood in the army. So there was this one guy that in the first cycle that nobody liked. And if anybody who was in first platoon with me is listening to this podcast, you know which guy that we're talking about. So like nobody liked this guy. He was a troublemaker. He tried to fight people all the time. And he talked really big and really high and mighty, and he was just super cocky, and he fucked up all the time, so drill sergeants were always on his ass. So you don't want to be that guy in basic training. You do not want to stand out like a sore thumb. You want to make friends in basic training so that you're not really like alone. So like there were a few different circles in basic training, you know, people stuck with other people who were kind of like them, but you know, for the most part, everybody socialized with everybody, except that one. There's that one shitty guy that nobody wanted to talk to. So, man, I forgot some of the stuff that he would do or say. It's been so long. But the guy's name, man, I shouldn't even say his name. But nobody fucking liked him. My second cycle that I went through, there were a couple troublemakers, and not just in my platoon, but within the company. There were actually some fistfights amongst some of the trainees. So that was fun to watch. But those assholes who got into a fight, they got all of us in trouble. So it's a group punishment, right? If one of us messes up, we all get punished for it. Because they want you to get into the mindset that you are a team, so you go down as a team, quite literally. So when I got hurt, I became a holdover, and a holdover basically is just you're being held over. You're being held for a longer period of time because maybe you got hurt, or maybe you're getting like medically discharged, or you failed your final physical fitness test and you decided to not continue. So it takes a long time to get your paperwork done to get chaptered out of the military or to get released. So there was holdovers. I was one, and they sent us to like Alpha Company across from us, Bravo Company, Charlie Company. We were from Delta Company. And so for a couple of months, we did like all the bitch work for those companies, because it's like you have a bunch of holdovers from different companies. What are you going to have them do? They can't really start up training with the company that they're being babysat by. So they had us like paint the fucking pull-up bars back to red, and they had us like cut grass. They had us clean the barracks that we didn't even sleep at. They had us serve food to the companies that we were stuck at or sent over to. So we were pretty much like their slaves. So that fucking sucked. And life was literally quite fucking miserable being a holdover. Like I almost quit. I was this close to quitting. I was so freaking close. Because I'm like, man, like I'm tired of this shit, you know, like just being a bitch for all these other companies. And then we were doing that until a new cycle of soldiers came back to Delta Company to start their basic training. So when the new cycle came, we all went back to Delta Company. And then there were some other holdovers from like Alpha Company, so they went back over there. And there were some other holdovers from Bravo Company, they went back over there. So yeah, like being a holdover, that was probably one of the toughest parts of my experience there, because you never know what you're going to be doing for the day. You're kind of just like standing around waiting for a drill sergeant to just kick your door open into your barracks and then be like, all right, holdovers, go start like folding papers or something stupid like that, or it's time to go start cutting grass or whatever. And that's all we did, nothing else. But in the second cycle that I went through, people got like caught sneaking stuff into the barracks, like especially after pass, because on pass we get to like pretty much go do whatever we want, go watch a movie, go to Go to the PX. Go buy like, candy and go eat it at the PX, or go to the restaurants that they have there. Or people go like buy cigarettes and they would smoke. They weren't supposed to, but they did. But there's no drill sergeants watching us really. In my first cycle, there was also contraband snuck into the barracks. So I remember a couple of the guys, they snuck in chewing tobacco into the barracks. I walk into the bathroom and I see these guys have like these big chews in their mouth. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? They're we're chewing tobacco. Before I left for basic, I was actually a smoker. So I was craving nicotine so bad. They're like, you want to try it? I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I'm dying for some nicotine right now, guys. So they give me like a little tiny pinch of chewing tobacco, and I put it between my gum and my lip. And you kind of just let it sit there, and when the spit accumulates, you spit it out. Guys, if you're new to chewing tobacco, or even just smoking, you're gonna get really lightheaded. I got so lightheaded, I thought I was gonna throw up. A few of the guys, well, one guy was gagging in the toilet because the chewing tobacco made him so lightheaded and nauseous. Because we had like nicotine withdrawal, and you're not like used to it anymore. And like they put these huge pinches of tobacco in their lips. So it was a lot of nicotine going into their body. And then one guy was like throwing up and all that stuff. Me, my head was just hanging over the toilet, just hoping that I didn't puke. And so that was a really fun experience, to be honest. Trying chewing tobacco in the barracks when we weren't supposed to. In the second cycle that I went through, contraband was found during the morning after our PT session. So after we were done working out. And we just finished like our cool down session. And so like first we stretch, and then we work out, and then we do cool down stretches. We were walking back to the barracks. Drill sergeant comes out. He's like, whoa, hold on. You guys are not done out here. Guess what we found? And they told us that they found like porno magazines and tobacco and candy stashed under like one of the spare beds in my platoon's sleeping bay. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, who's stupid enough to hide it under a spare bed? Drill sergeants are not stupid. They will look anywhere and everywhere to find contraband, and they will always find it, for the most part. And so there was like a bunch of tobacco in a Ziploc bag, and like with candy with it. And they're like, all right, whose is this? Nobody confessed. We thought that it was the holdovers from the other companies, because the holdovers that we had, they were kind of just like pieces of shits too. So we got the shit smoked out of us. Like, we just got done working out, and then we get smoked right after we were done working out. So I think we just did like a shit ton of push-ups in the tire pit. So that was fun. Something that I wanted to mention was I actually received my black card in basic. So like, your black card are just the black guys, they accept you as one of their own. Like, yeah, you're cool, How that happened was that, I don't know when it started, but the guys from like 2nd and 3rd platoon, mainly the African American soldiers, they would go to our laundry room in the 1st platoon bay, and then they would like just start rapping in the laundry room. So like nobody was really allowed there except for the black guys. And then slowly they started letting like the white guys in, and then I tried going in there once, and they're like, oh, no, you can't come in here, man. I was like, what the fuck? So after like maybe 2 weekends, I tried to go in there again. And then one of the black guys in my platoon, he's like, oh, no, he's cool, man, let him in. So I get in there, they're like rapping, and they're beatboxing, and they're playing beats on top of the dryers. And one of them says like, yeah, you know what, Jean, you're pretty cool, man. So I think it's safe to say that you got your black card, bro. So I was like, all right, cool, man. That's fine by me. So I'm just watching these guys just vibing and rapping and singing and all that cool stuff. And that was really, really a nice moment in basic training, just getting together and just having fun and and just vibing in music together. Like never really had that, so it was really nice to get that. And of all places, at basic training, because you're so bored, you have to do something. So people just come up with cool ways to have fun. So going back to like how we'd go on pass and stuff like that, they actually allowed us to bring cough drops and like those vitamin drops, cough drops, whatever the hell you want to call them, back to the barracks. So like we would always get the fruity flavored like vitamin drops or whatever, and we would eat them as candy because they allowed it. Like they knew that we were probably eating it as candy because when they would search us when we came back from pass to see if we brought any contraband in, we would show them the vitamin cough drops or whatever, and they'd be like, "What do you need these for?" And then we would just come up with some bullshit like, "Oh, well, I've been getting really sick lately, so I figured that I should probably have some." So they would give us that look like, "Uh-huh." But they couldn't say no because it was actually allowed. So they're like, "All right, get out of my face." Man, those cough drops were so good, guys. It was like the tropical flavors, so there was like, I don't know, like apple, no, not apple flavor, but it's just like these citrusy flavors. There's like 3 or 4 different flavors in the bag, and we would just pass them around and eat them like candy. Cough drops of all things, right? And so people would actually like hustle this in basic training. Like, guys, this is like prison. People hustle, okay? Like, it's just like prison. You have no connection to the outside world, really. You're only allowed like 1 phone call a week. No cell phones, no internet, no nothing. You only get to write letters, just like in prison. And people hustle, just like in prison. They would like sell food or like draw for money and stuff like that. And so we would sell like cough drops to people because people were so desperate for it, they're willing to pay money for it. And then other things that we would sell is like people would take candy from their MRE, and we only ate MREs out in the field. So you're not really allowed to like bring candy back to the barracks, but people did it because they would take it from their MREs, put it in their pockets, and then bring it back to the barracks and snack on them, or they would sell them. So people would sell candy from MREs inside the barracks, and even out in the field too. Primarily it was in the field, and they were like, "Hey, who wants a bag of M&Ms? I'll give it to you for like $3. $3 for a bag of M&Ms. Like, that's not even the crazy part. You know how much I paid for a chocolate-covered Rice Krispie? I paid $5 for that thing. That's how much people would pay for food in basic training. Like, the price is skyrocketed because it's a hustle. You have to charge that much. And also because it was literally a luxury. So, you know, it was something that we couldn't have every day. So people would pay high amounts of money for candy. Another hustle that I found someone doing was they would do somebody else's fire guard shift. So people were paying this guy like $20, $30 to do 1 hour's worth of fire guard for them. Because so like fire guard is basically, there's always 4 of us awake at all hours of the night. And so 4 guys will do the first shift. Everybody goes to sleep. They do it for 1 hour. What do we do during fire guard? We just clean. We just clean the barracks. That's it. And then like every single shift had like different tasks. So like the first shift, I don't know, maybe they would just, you know, do the laundry room. Second shift, they would do the bathrooms and the showers. The third shift, they would like sweep the sleeping bay or something like that. And so you do your shift for an hour with the other 3 guys. You wake up the next 4 guys. They do their shift for 1 hour. They wake up the next 4 guys, so on and so forth, right? This guy would get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night because he was doing 3 or 4 different fire guard shifts. And people, like I said, they were paying him $20, $30 for 1 shift. So if you can imagine 4 shifts in 1 night, he just made $120, if not more, in 1 night. That was the best hustle that you can do in basic training, doing somebody else's fire guard shift, because people were willing to pay $20 because they wanted their sleep, because we're all so tired. Everybody wants their sleep in. And the drill sergeants, they didn't keep track of whose shift was supposed to be in what hour, so we never really got in trouble for doing somebody else's fire guard shift. I think I may have done it once, and then after that, I think I quit, because I'm like, fuck that, I need my sleep. So this guy who's doing all these fire guard shifts, he kept like falling asleep and dozing off during class, and we're like, yo, it's catching up to him, man. But yo, he was balling. He was knee deep in money, man. So okay, this is one of my favorite stories from basic training. I forgot how the news came over to us. I think so. Like we would all do PT, right? And then like the other companies surrounding us, we all shared like the same field for working out and stuff. So like a couple Alpha Company guys, they came to talk to us from Delta Company. They're telling us a story about how these two guys ran away from Alpha Company. And this is the story. In the middle of the night, they like stole their sleeping bags that were issued to them, and then they sneaked out of the barracks, which I don't know how the hell they sneaked out of the barracks, because there's alarms on all the doors. So like the drill sergeants know if somebody, is leaving the building or leaving the sleeping bay. But they snuck out with their sleeping bags. They ran to the nearest woods, and then they camped there for a night. They woke up the next morning, they got on a cab, and they told the cab driver to drive to the airport. They get to the airport, they buy tickets to fly back home, and then I think they actually made it to like the airports at their home state, and then they got caught because they tracked them through their credit cards, I believe. So don't do that, guys, okay? Do not run away from basic training. It does you no good. You might as well just do it the right way. Just say you want to quit, okay? Just have the balls to say that you want to quit and get yelled at for like a few days, and then they will process your paperwork, and may take a couple months, but don't worry, you will get kicked out the natural way, okay? So that was crazy. I'm like, man, basic training I don't think is that bad to the point where you need to freaking pull a heist or pull a runaway, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was really crazy. But yeah, I mean, like, so much stuff happened during basic training. I'm sure there's like a lot of things that I'm missing that were really memorable to me, but I just forgot them over the years. And I always tell people, if I could go back in time, I would do it all over again. I would make the same exact decision that I made 10 years ago or 9 years ago. Basic training taught me so many things on how to be a man, how to be an adult, how to really fend for myself out in the world. And a lot of the teachings that they taught me, I still live by them to this day. And I'm really grateful for all the friends that I made in basic training, and the mother and father figures that were my drill sergeants. And, all in all, it was a very positive experience for me. Yeah, there were a lot of negative experiences too. But, it's really what you take of it, right? And really, I don't want to hear people telling me that, oh, well, the Army has shady recruiting practices, or there's like a lot of like suicides in the military, or there's a lot of people who harm civilians when we go overseas and stuff like that. Like, guys, like, we know that, okay? Like, that's no secret. You don't have to tell us about that, Like, we talk shits about our recruiters all the time, those fucking liars. So we definitely know about the recruiters, guys. Don't worry about it. But we're still stupid enough to join. I'm kidding. Well, I joined to pay for college. Shady recruiting practice, right? You get a poor person of color, and you promise them that you'll pay for their college free of charge. Except it wasn't free of charge, because most of us came back with broken knees, bad shoulders, and crippling depression. So on that note, this is the conclusion of this weekend's episode of the Let's Slam podcast. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next weekend. Until then, please take care of yourselves. Please continue washing and sanitizing your hands, washing your nasty ass cracks, and cover your nose and your mouth when you cough or sneeze. All right, peace.